I was gonna do your sugar-free Red Bull.
Yeah.
With whatever's thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As you can tell by now, we're taking a break from the FRS. We have stuff that we can do to it, but we're still missing some pretty crucial parts. And I just bought a truck. It's a 2012 Dodge 3500 Laramie, all the options. It's got a fleece cheetah turbo, intake, and a slight tune, and that's it. Doesn't even have an exhaust. It's a little higher miles, but I know the person that owned it before me, and they owned it from around 60,000 miles, and they took really good care of it. It's in great condition. It was a work truck, but I swear there's no dings, no dents. The interior's super clean, no rips and tears on the seats, and I got it for a good deal. So, as you can tell, it still has a decal from the company name, has that ugly bumper. All of that's going to come off. I already have an OEM bumper that we're going to put back on it, sit in my living room. But right now we got to focus on another problem that it has. Unfortunately, this truck, I got it for a really good deal for a couple reasons, but one of the big reasons is that it's pushing coolant out of the reservoir. I ran a head gasket test on it with that blue dye stuff, and it turned green, so we confirmed it is a head gasket issue. It hasn't made its way into the oil or anything, and it still runs fine, but it's only really a matter of time before it gets worse. And I don't really like dumping coolant all over the ground, so I ordered ARP 2000s and a MAHL Head Gasket Kit from Thoroughbred Diesel, and they got that here pretty quick before I could even touch the truck. So we're gonna pull the head off today. We're gonna send it to the machine shop, put it all back together, and this truck should be as sound as can be for the miles that it has on it. So I'm pretty stoked. I wanna get it done. I'm not gonna talk a whole lot. I'm just gonna get to work. So let's get after it. Before we do anything, we gotta drain out the fluids. So we're gonna drain the oil and the coolant. Then we can start ripping and tearing. Oh, I think I just got oil all over my face. Trying to avoid that. Alright, so I just got back from some appointments that I take care of today. Today's been kind of a crammed day. This whole weekend is. Really, I got a bunch of stuff I gotta do tomorrow. But when I was looking through the footage to see where we left off last, for some reason the camera didn't pick up taking off the actual valve cover, which is right here on the table. So that's the last piece that you guys saw on the truck, which when removed gives us access to our intake valves, exhaust valves, and then obviously our injectors all the way down. Before we go ahead and take those off, we're going to remove this wiring harness that runs all the way back here, the intake horn, the dipstick, and then all these fuel lines. And then after that, we'll be able to get the exhaust manifold off. And I think we need to take the belt off. I don't know if you guys can see it. So we still have quite a bit of stuff to take off before we can actually even get to the rockers and the push rods and take the head bolts off and then take the head off. But I think we can get it done. The only problem that I see at this point is we're gonna be able to get the engine hoist back there in order to actually take the head off because it has like 200 pounds. But I don't know how we're gonna get in my car because I don't have a whole lot of room for an engine hoist to move around the truck and then get into the back of the Focus. So we're kind of faced with that dilemma. I don't know how we're gonna do it. I might just have to be a big boy and pick it up, put it in the trunk. So anyway, I'm not gonna waste any more time because I don't have a lot of it. Let's go ahead and get the rest of the shit off. Obviously got the intake horn off, got the fuel rails out, or fuel rail out, the high pressure fuel rail, and then all the fuel lines go into it. We still need to take off, I forgot about these. These are the locking nuts. And then we'll get a little tube that comes out that's connected or pressed against the injectors. And I was told that you're supposed to replace those, but a lot of guys seem to only replace them if they're replacing the injectors, so I'm gonna leave them on there. Little tip, there's a fuel line in the back. I think you guys could probably see that. When it wraps around the back of the head and bolts in, that nut, you have to loosen it and take the nut out. It's just a banjo bolt, and it's a 17 millimeter. I had to find out the hard way by laying over the engine bay and trying to a million different wrenches to finally figure out which size it was. It was just a pain in the ass. I can't tell you guys how annoying doing a cylinder head on this truck is. If it was a gas motor, I'd have it done by now. I'll tell you that. I feel like it's aging me. You can see the bags under my eyes. Has nothing to do with the fact that I haven't slept in the last like 4 days. But anyway, that's where we're at. I'm gonna get to it. So that's a little nut that goes in there. Came off relatively easy. It was really just snug. That's gonna be a 7/8 bolt. At least that's what I used to get it off. So. Fuck this. Alright, so we got the exhaust manifold off. Now we just need to get the rockers, injectors, and the push rods out, and then we can get the bolts out and start rigging this head out of here. So I'm not sure if I want to get those tubes. There's a tube there I'm going to need to get off, but I'm going to try to get that off when the head's out of the car or out of the truck. And then there's one way back there, I don't know if you can see it, that I'm not sure. The hose that's hooked up to it, I'll get that off, but I'm not too sure if I can get the little 90 off of there. It's just a pain in the ass, but I'm not sure if I need to leave those, take those fittings out that they're hooked up to, if I can leave those on. I don't know. I'll probably take them off anyway, but that's where we're at, so let's get the head off. So for these back ones, you have these little rubber grommet things. They're underneath the cowl, and if you remove these, it opens up to a void so you can actually take the back push rods out, and there should be 2 of them if I'm correct. So take these out, and then you get those push rods out. Just like that. Now that we have the push rods out, injectors and all that, we need to take this top cradle piece out from on top of the cylinder head. And to get that off, we're just gonna take these bolts out. There's one here, on top of here, all the way back, and then there's one like this in the very, very back. So take those off and then it should come right off. Alright, so we got the cradle off of the top of the head that I was talking about. Now we just need to get these head bolts off. I got everything, all the hoses, fuel lines. Nothing should be preventing us from actually hoisting this head off. I think I'm going to take this shroud off, but that's it. should be good to pull this thing as soon as we get the bolts out. So let's get to doing that. So we got a problem. That little bracket back there guarding the oil or the fuel line, that's attached to the head. And that fuel line stays in place. So I've already tried to get that off before, but it's on there freaking tight. So I think that's the last piece that needs to come off before we can pull the head. But try to get that off real quick, and then I'll continue the video hooking everything up. I don't know if I'm gonna show that part. I just wanna get it off real quick and then go from there. The head is off and it is sitting in the back of my car. I was trying to have this head off and ready to go by like 3 o'clock so I could take it to the machine shop before they close. Or it's not really a machine shop, it's an auto parts store too, with a reputable machine shop attached to it. Nonetheless, they close at 4, or closed at 4. And I was gonna make it so my roommate, we're gonna put it in his truck, and he's gonna take it in tomorrow while I go out of town for work. I gotta finish taking this off, sensor, and then the intake plate, whatever you wanna call it here. And then I think we're good. I don't think I need to take the hooks off. They're probably gonna wanna keep those on because this thing's heavy and they're probably gonna use it for lifting points. Other than that, once those get out or get taken out, it'll be off to the machine shop tomorrow, and then next time you guys see me after that, we'll have it back, hopefully by next weekend. I don't know, it'll all be in one video. Then we'll put it back on. Hopefully that goes a lot better than taking it off, because taking it off makes me never want to pop the hood of a Cummins ever again. But I probably will, because I'll probably blow a head gasket again. Or because I want to go fast. Check this out though. This is everything that came off. There's a head gasket. It is shot. Look at this. How rusty that is. When I pulled it, there's freaking coolant everywhere. I think this was a failing point, one of these, because I believe, if I'm correct, these are coolant passages or coolant ports. And there's no gasket material really between them, and that's why you get those exhaust gases going in there and pressurizing the system and pushing it back out the overflow. But that's everything. The old head bolts, injectors, rockers, everything that we had to take off. Got the intake over there. Everything that we had to take off in order to get this thing out of here, which is absolutely insane, because any other head that I've ever done has never been like that. But it's not a gas motor. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take those off. You guys see me do that. And then after that, we'll see you guys next week, hopefully. So we got everything off. It's all sitting right there. I'll clean it up before we get this head out. I'm gonna take that head, we're gonna put it in this bucket that I lined with some diapers. Once it's in there, we'll put it in its truck, and then he'll take it off to the machine shop tomorrow. So next time you see my face, we'll have the head back, probably sitting in the trunk of my car or in that bucket. So, all right, I'll see you guys in a week. That, my friends, is a 6.7 cylinder head, fresh out of the machine shop. Did a really good job on this thing. Obviously, these are the valve side, and all they did was shave the bottom, but they hot tanked it so it looks really clean. I put these hooks back on so we can rig it up back into the truck on the hoist. Not really much to say, this thing's just ready to go back in. So we got that back, everything looks good, the mating surface looks awesome. They said they took about 8 thou off, which I have a standard size head gasket, and I think it's gonna be just fine. It's not a lot, but it is pushing it probably. I think we'll be all right. I'm gonna run it. I have the head gasket in, and I did get the block all cleaned up. I just used a razor blade. A lot of guys use like a Scotch-Brite pad or something on a drill. I think that's getting a little sketchy, kind of playing with fire there. Kind of risk creating dips into the block and the mating surface, or deep scratches, which in turn would just cause you to do this job all over again. So I took it slow, made everything smooth, and everything's nice and clean. So we have the head gasket in, we got the block back. Now it's time to put it on. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Heads in the truck. That was a pain in the ass. Everything's lined up, dowels are in. Now we just gotta put head studs on. So let's go do that. When it comes to these studs that they send, I believe this one's your intake, and then you have 6 studs that are a little bit longer, as you can tell. This goes into your exhaust side, and it actually says it on the instructions here. It tells you there's a number 6, 3, 6, 11, 14, 19, 22 positions on the diagram down here. So it's going to be all along this top here. That's where those longer bolts are going to go, which, like I said, is on the exhaust side. We got finer threads right here. That's where the hex is, the Allen head. That's going to go on the top. That's for your bolts or the nuts that they send. This is going to go into the block. So we're going to go ahead and put assembly lube on both sides. I believe it's just on the top. Probably put oil on the bottom that goes into the block. We're going to bottom these out, put them in until they bottom out, and then we're going to come a quarter turn out, and then we can install the nuts. So pretty easy, pretty simple. Okay, now we have the head studs ran in and backed out a quarter turn after they bottom out. Put the ARP thread lube, or the fastener lube, on the threads that are going to be torqued down, not the block side, but the head side. After you get those in, you also want to put that fastener lube on both sides of the washers that you guys put in there. And then the same thing with the nuts. After these go on, and you've lubed up both sides and put them on, take your nuts and put the fastener lube on the bottom side of the nut when you go to actually put the nuts on the studs. That way you guys get accurate torque readings and it doesn't get hung up anywhere. Alright, so all the head studs are torqued down to 125 foot-pounds. You guys didn't see the final torque because my camera shut off due to my SIM card being too full. By the time I got that all transferred to my computer, I had already put on the exhaust manifold. Those needed to be gone through and torqued down completely one last time. And then after that, we can start putting on some of the hoses and lines that run over here and the other brackets. After we get done with that side, it should be pretty much buttoned up. I can put the intake back on down to the turbo, and then we can come over here to the fuel line side and start and put that stuff back together. We do need to go through and obviously put all the injectors back in, the rockers, adjust the valves, and so on and so forth. But I think we can have this done fairly quick. The biggest thing is going to be the valve adjustment. That's going to take the longest, but we'll get that done.
Sprinkled apple cinnamon.
Alright, so next we have injectors to put on. Before we put these on, we're going to have to replace this copper washer and this seal that goes around right here, this O-ring. I already put pretty much everything that I want on the exhaust side on, and I also reinstalled the fuel line that goes to the back of the head. So we're ready to do these. I'm going to show you how to do one, and I'm going to finish the rest, and we'll cut over to when we put them in. I'm going to use this pick that I have. You can use like a small screwdriver as well. And then we're going to use a 3/8 socket to put the new copper washer back on. We're also going to clean off this tip here. I've got Scotch-Brite. You can use a wire brush, whatever you want to use. But nonetheless, we're going to take our pick or whatever your tool of choice is. And we're going to get this O-ring off. Should come off pretty easy, just like that. And then these copper washers can be kind of a pain. Just gonna kind of put it against there like that. Give it a good smack. Once you get a little bit of room in there, you just squeeze your screwdriver in there. Slowly pry around it and work it up so you can grab it and just pull it right off. Before we put anything back on, we're gonna clean this. It's got a bunch of soot all over it. We're here, so we might as well clean it before we put anything back on. I'm gonna wipe it first. I'm gonna take my Scotch-Brite pad. If you have a wire brush, you could use that instead. I'm just gonna go around it until it looks nice, until it's clean. I'm gonna grab my new seal. Use our tool to put that back on. Just work it over the edge there. It can be kind of a pain. Until it gets right back in there. Take your copper washer. It doesn't matter which side it goes on. It's going to be kind of a pain to get it on. If you get it on at all, probably won't get it on much. This one's really being a pain. It barely went on at all. So I'm going to take my socket. I'm just going to wiggle it back and forth. You can see I've already got it quite a ways on there just with that. Switch over to a little deep socket. I'm just gonna slowly work my way on there. There you go. Seated on there. Now this is ready to go on the truck. I'm gonna get the rest of these on and then we'll cut over to putting these in there. So all the injectors are in. I went ahead and put all the nuts down and I torqued them down. I ended up finalizing 2 through 6. I'm going to demonstrate how to finish up the first one for you guys. Once you have this down to that 44 foot-pounds, you're going to take your fuel tube Replace this O-ring right there. I've seen and heard of people are keeping them if they look good, but my gasket kit came with it, so replace that if you can. Put engine oil on the fuel tube. I just dipped it into some oil, and then you're going to put it where the injector goes. It's only going to go one way because it's got this little piece on there, and if it's not oriented correctly, then it won't pop in. See, I got it in there just like that, and then you're going to end up pushing it just like the injector until you hear it pop in. Once you have that in there, you're going to take your tube nut, and the torque spec for this I believe is like 11 foot-pounds. I just put it in hand tight because that's pretty light. And then once that's in there, or the tube nut's in there, you're going to come back over here and torque it to 71 inch-pounds. Once you have that to 71 inch-pounds, you're going to go back to the nut. You're going to torque that down to, I believe, 41 foot-pounds is what I did. I've heard of a lot of people doing 44 and 37, so I just went in between, and I ended up doing 44. So yeah, you can see if it helps. Might as well now because people are gonna start. We're gonna go ahead and put this valve train together. So I'm gonna do this all at once. You're gonna take the push rods, put them exactly where they were before, so exhaust and intake on each cylinder. I'm gonna put engine oil on those, clean them off, and then put engine oil on them before I put them back in. And then I'm gonna put the bridges on, and there's a dot on the bridge, and that dot I'm gonna put on the forward facing, kind of the same way the injectors are facing for the fuel tubes. And then after that, you can put your rockers back on. When you put your rockers back on, make sure that you loosen the adjustment nut for the valves so they sit nice and loose. You can torque the rockers down to 27 foot-pounds. So I got everything installed, torqued down. These adjustment nuts are loose, rocker arms are torqued down, bridges are on. So now we're ready to go ahead and adjust the valve lash. Before you do that, you want to get on top dead center. There's top dead center 1 and top dead center 6. I know I'm on top dead center 1 because cylinder 1's exhaust and intake are both loose, whereas cylinder 6 is tight. I do have a little bit of play in the intake on cylinder 6 because I have these nuts loose, but the exhaust is compressing the spring. So there's also, when you're in top dead center 1, you're able to adjust the intake 1, 2, and 4 and exhaust 1, 3, and 5. So the ones that we're able to adjust right now have play, and the ones that we're not supposed to adjust don't. So I know we're in top dead center 1. But there's a mark down on a crank pulley. You're gonna get that at the 12 o'clock position, and then once it's there, you can see what rockers are loose to see whether you're in top dead center 1 or 6. Once you adjust, I like starting in top dead center 1. I think a lot of people do. I don't think it really matters, but once you're in top dead center, say 1, and I adjust all those valves, I'm going to rotate it 360 degrees, get the TDC mark up to the 12 o'clock position again, and do the adjustment on the rockers that we weren't able to adjust in 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The spec for these intake is 10 thou, and then the exhaust is 20 thou. So they say that you want to do this when the engine's cold, or like under 140 degrees or something like that, 120 degrees. Obviously this thing's been sitting, and if you're doing a head gasket, it's been sitting long enough that you can touch any part in the engine bay and it's not going to burn you. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll rotate it at 360 degrees, do the rest of the valves, and then we can move on to putting this thing back together completely. And it should be, well, should be a breeze. I don't know. We'll see. Let's do it. Alright, so this place is a freaking mess, but this is the next thing to go on now that we have all the fuel lines and whatnot put on and the high pressure fuel rail. This is going to sit right over the valve train, and then we'll put our injector harness on top of that. But before we put this on, we have to modify it. Since we have head studs now instead of bolts, we gotta cut this out pretty much flush with the wall there, because it goes over the top of a stud and it won't go all the way down because the stud's in the way. A lot of people usually use like a Dremel tool, which I'm going to use to help clean it up, but I don't have like a burr bit that's going to make that look really nice. So I'm going to take a 3/8 drill bit, drill it out, and then I'll clean it up a little bit with what I do have on my Dremel. So we'll see how it turns out. Should be okay because it's just aluminum. Call me a liar because I guess I did have one. And just like that, this thing is put back together. We got the intake horn on, all the fuel lines, the fuel rail, all the sensors and everything that the electrical harness goes to, intake from the turbos on, all the coolant and air lines, PCV valve hoses. Everything's put back together. I just did a once over to make sure everything was tight. I got the belt back on, nothing's in the way, cleaned up all my tools, so we should be good to just put oil in this thing and then start it. Or we gotta bleed the fuel lines, but we should be able to put fluids back in this thing and then bleed the airline and get a first start in. So let's put coolant and oil in it and see what happens. Alright, so we got the first start out of the way, and I originally thought I was going to have someone crank it while I cracked one of the fuel lines to bleed the air out, but I guess it is a self-bleeding system. I had a second gen, a 24 valve, and when I did a fast lift pump on it, they said that you had to bleed the fuel line, so I had to crack number one and crank it till fuel came out, but didn't have to on this one. Just took a little extra cranking for it to finally start, as you guys saw. But she's running about 48 psi for oil pressure, which I think will go down as it warms up. The next thing we have to do before we take this thing for a test drive is bleed the coolant system. So I have this bleeding kit right here, and I filled it until
There's some left in here, obviously, like almost half, about a third. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start it, I'm gonna crank the heat up to full blast. I don't know if you have to have it full blast, it's just what I do, to open up the heater core. That way, coolant's running through every line in the whole system and bleeding out every bit of air that's in there. So the reason why I fill the coolant about a third or halfway into the fill is that way we can see bubbles come up. As when the thermostat opens, it should suck some of it in. I don't know how much it's gonna suck in. I hope it's not a lot because I don't have any more coolant. But the idea is you open up the full system, let it circulate through, and as air pushes through, it's gonna come bubbling out of that. And once it starts bubbling, that's how you know that you have all the air out of the system. So I'm pretty excited, my heart's racing. Hopefully I didn't fuck it up. But let's go ahead and bleed the system and take it out for a test drive. Alright guys, so I just took her out for a drive, put some miles on her. She's running great. I should have bought more coolant. It sucked in everything that we got for it. So I got 2 more gallons from O'Reilly's just now. And I don't know, everything's good. It's running cool, it's not overheating. It's hard to tell whether it's pushing coolant still or not. I doubt it is, obviously, we just did a head gasket on it, but I made kind of a mess. It's stupid of me. I mean, I don't know if I'll show the clip or not because it's super embarrassing, but I plugged the funnel and let it continue to warm up because it's still pushing coolant back out as it was pressurizing before the thermostat opened up. And when I went to pull the cap on it, it just bubbled all over the place. So there's a giant mess all over the engine bay. So it's really hard to tell if anything's leaking at all right now. So I'll probably call it here and cut this to tomorrow morning's drive to give you guys an update on whether or not it was successful or not. That's it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So it's been about a week and the Dodge has ran flawlessly. So it turns out we did a good job and there's no leaks. I did throw a code after we started up and took it for about a 20-minute drive. High crankcase pressure, but it wasn't really flashing any or showing any symptoms. Tried to do a little bit of troubleshooting. None of the lines were clogged for the PCV system. I was gonna replace the filter, which I'll probably end up doing anyway, but amongst my troubleshooting, I took the oil cap off, the valve cover, did the old blow-by test just to see if there's any blow-by, and shocker, there wasn't. Doing that ended up throwing a low crankcase pressure fault, so I ended up just clearing the codes altogether, took it for another like 20-minute drive, didn't get another code, and then I've driven it to work. I've probably put on about 200 miles, and we haven't had any codes or leaks or anything bad. So, but like I said, she runs good. She runs flawlessly. She sounds great. She should hopefully, well, as long as we don't do anything stupid, she should run pretty good for a while. But that being said, the truck's done. Now we've got the FRS to tend to. We got parts that came in, and I was gonna start filming for the turbo kit, but then it dawned on me while we were adjusting the valve lash on the Dodge that I didn't adjust the valves on the FA20. And when I went through there, the valves were all out of spec, or at least a lot of them. I didn't know that these valves on the FRS and these boxer motors have shims on them. I've never adjusted valves with shims, so I ended up having to take all of it apart, as you can see, and took my measurements, did the math, and tried to put shims where I thought they would belong, because like I said, I didn't know when I took them off that they needed to go back exactly where they were at. But I could only get the majority of them correct, about 75%, so I ended up having to buy like 4 or 5 shims in order to get everything in the spec, and those should be in within the next couple days. And then once those are in, we can throw everything back together and button up this motor and really start thinking about getting it back into the car. So things are going good. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, studding the block and get the Dodge running. I do have another video coming out for detailing it. It's going to be just something short. If you guys have any questions or comments, concerns, drop them below. If you guys just want to bullshit, I'm always down to do that too. I'll be down there to talk to you guys. If you guys have anything, I'm still super new to this whole YouTube thing and talking to a camera and editing and all that, so bear with me, but I got a lot of good plans coming, things that I think are cool, and hopefully you guys want to tag along for that. So hit the subscribe button, follow me on Instagram at TravisMIT_ for more, I guess, quick updates, live updates, and I'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.